You're listening to Career Compass with Patrick and Cha-Cha on Base 101.1 FM.
Every time I hear the promo for this show, Career Compass, I think about Patrick saying, if you don't meet the love of your life in the office environment, where do you meet them? And also in the same breath, when he has said in the past that you cannot form friendships in the office. My name is Cha-Cha. This is Base 101. Oh, Patrick is in the studio. The man with the wisdom, the almighty HR. Welcome to a brand new week.
Good morning, Cha-Cha.
Good morning.
It's no more workplace. It's no more workplace doctor.
I don't remember. I will call you the almighty HR. But anyways, he is the workplace doctor. Let's talk about friendships, office friendships for the next couple of minutes. In today's work environment, forming friendships with colleagues is common. I mean, it's encouraged, but somebody on the other side of this table says you cannot be friends with someone, but look at us. But anyways, the relationships you find in the workplace can either enhance, your teamwork or damage your work life. Now, let's talk about boundaries. What do you think about, having friends in the workplace? Again, we've spoken about this, but I want to hear it because I know you have a different opinion now. Can you be friends with your colleagues at work?
Okay, you think I have a different opinion?
Yes, you do. Go ahead.
All right, so yes, many people have called me out that they didn't agree with my previous position when I said colleagues cannot be friends, right? Mm-hmm. It's a dicey one. Because on one hand, right, you spend a lot of time with your colleagues. In fact, some people say you spend more time with your colleague than with your significant others, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a 40-hour work week. If you spend 40 hours of your daytime with people, you eventually form bonds and friendships and more with them. It's difficult to say friendships would not naturally grow or come out of it. But on the other side, so let me give a balanced perspective this time. So on one hand, some people will say, look, it's difficult to form friendships, genuine friendships with your colleagues because sometimes the friendships could potentially get in the way of your career goals and aspirations. Okay, both of you, in some cases, may be competing for the same prize,
right? And
the friendship would be mortgaged on the platform of career. All right, well, on the flip side, you could say, yes, absolutely, you could be friends with your colleagues, however, I think my balanced view will be, okay, yes, you can have friends, your colleagues can become friends, however, you should navigate this friendship with boundaries.
Now, still talking on boundaries, a lot of us have actually been wondering if it's okay to make friends with your colleagues. Some people also say just go to work and leave it. Do you think it's important to create friendships in today's workspace?
So I've got my fingers burnt, positively and negatively. If it's possible to get your fingers burnt positively, in the sense that some of the closest friendships are forged were once colleagues, right? And at the same time, some of the largest breakfasts, not breakfast in an emotional way, but some of the largest disappointments I've had in my career were from people who I once called friends.
Right.
So, it's a catch-50 situation, right? For some people, it works out. For some people, in Nigeria, we say, na person we know person, they do person. So it's really neither here nor there.
Now, what do you think the risks are of crossing boundaries? Say, for instance, you decide to become friends with someone at your workplace, but do you think that there could be boundaries being crossed? And I think there's a different way you have friends at workplace and friendships outside the work environment. What are the risks you would say crossing these boundaries?
Oh yeah, so just like you said, having friends at work, the rule book is completely different, okay? Because there's certain lines that should be maintained, certain boundaries that should be put in place. For example, make sure you never blur the lines between your friendship and your professional lives together. So your personal relationship sometimes could affect objective decision making, especially when it comes to your friend. Let's imagine you're friends with HR, right? And then your line manager, you do something out of line, and your line manager reports you to your friend HR. The moment the report comes in, I mean, there's an extra burden on that person to be professional, to separate, keep a friendship separate from, what goes on. So it's sometimes difficult separating, your work role from a personal dynamic. Okay. Sometimes there's this act of perceived or even actual favoritism. Sometimes friendships may create a bias,
right?
In assigning tasks, promotions, or performance reviews. Okay. And interestingly, right, in the workplace, unknowingly, your friendship with a particular colleague could even create the impression of a clique,
right?
Whereby you are actually sort of excluding others from. So let's say you have a lunch buddy. You guys always have lunch together. All right. No one else can have lunch with that person automatically, and then if somebody else joins you both for lunch, they will feel like a third wheel. It becomes two is company, three is crowd. Okay. And then sometimes there's this emotional entanglement, when you get over involved into the personal challenges of your colleague. Okay. And I'd say finally, sometimes it could compromise confidentiality. Okay. So some information that is on a need to know, right, could inadvertently come out to a friend that doesn't need to know.
But to be honest, that's what friendships are about. Sometimes you talk, you just trust that this person, maintains a certain level of decorum. But in the case where you're already there, don't be friends already. How can you maintain healthy boundaries in a workplace? It might be hard, but are there tricks to be able to do this?
Yeah, so like you said, you guys are there already. So how do you manage disclosures? So you have to, first of all, be intentional about disclosures, okay? Be careful about what you share, okay? If you're sharing personal information, it should be done selectively and thoughtfully, right? Avoid oversharing sensitive details, especially details that could be used
against you.
Don't put that friend in a position where they are being tempted to betray you for their own good,
right?
All right. So keep your decisions objective, right? Once you have to make a decision over that involves your friend, maybe involve a third party, sound your thoughts by that person so that it helps you remain objective. Then you have to learn to separate personal and work conversations.
Right.
Okay. Maintain that clear distinction between your personal and your business conversations with that friend. Okay. Respect their time and space. This is going to be very difficult because let's say, for example, Chacha, myself and Chacha are very close friends in the office, right? But if I can't reach out to you outside office hours unless there's a mutual consent to that. I have to ask, Chacha, is it okay if I can call you outside of work hours? Because that's your personal time, right? So I cannot just assume or take that liberty because we are office buddies or lunch buddies at work. I can just call you up, during your personal time. So those are, and then finally, very important, right? Be very mindful of power dynamics.
Right.
We've had an episode where once upon a friend, now a boss. So once this friend becomes a position of authority over you, the dynamics of even that friendship has changed.
Right.
Okay. I mentioned that, I don't know if I mentioned before, my first ever query in my career came from someone who was once a friend, and it was as a friend I told this person, my career I've never received query.
Hi, so make us stain your white.
That it was my friend that stained my white. Since then, query no be question. Ask me a question, I give you an answer.
No response. We're talking about how you need to create boundaries, so that it doesn't cause any harm in your friendships. So I wonder if there's any point in time where, Patrick, you've been very anti-friendships in the workplace. Now, for somebody who is anti-friendships in the workplace, how can a workplace friendship thrive without compromising professionalism? I mean, you have to be quite intentional for that.
Okay, without compromising professionalism. All right, so look, first of all, there's certain rules that would help. All right, so first of all, you have to anchor the friendship on mutual respect. Okay, so ensure that you know, in the first instance, your interactions are based on shared values, trusts, you know, and professional courtesy. You know, it's easy because you guys are friends. You could easily get away with things that other people will not get away with, right? It's more especially important in situations where there's a power dynamics. You know, if your friend is
up there,
you know, you have to just make sure that you do everything to maintain that respect. Okay, maintain discretion and confidentiality. All right. If this person, because this person is vulnerable to you, right, you have to ensure that weakness is kept private. You know, avoid discussing sensitive work matters, especially in informal settings. If you guys have pet names, you call each other, or you know, is it pet names in this instance? Not pet names. What we call it? Nicknames. Okay, yeah. You guys have nicknames for each other. You know, of course, you are Chacha. Everybody calls you Chacha. But let's imagine we're office buddies, and I'm the only one allowed to call you Chacha. You know, we have to just, you know, be discreet and, you know, about our friendship. Whilst you guys are at work, you communicate openly and professionally. All right. Avoid being an exclusive clique.
Right.
You know, any form of exclusionary behavior while at work.
I don't want people.
No, you know, we have to be inclusive of other team members, you know, to avoid forming an exclusive social circle with that particular friend. Okay. You have to resist the urge not to you have to resist the urge to always remain objective, especially when it comes to decisions about your friend.
Right. Is this where emotional intelligence comes in play?
Yes. That's what.
How does that come in play heavily?
Okay, so emotional intelligence is a big conversation on its own. So emotional intelligence, first of all, will help you be self-aware. All right, you recognize that when it comes to this, your guy or your G, right, you are not objective. Okay, so you can assess when you're not balanced in your opinion and perspective about your friend. Okay, then you can now regulate it. Okay, because you are aware of yourself, you can take certain precautions, you know, to make sure that your emotions do not come to play when making a decision regarding your friend. And it can be both ways. You know, when you're happy, decisions will definitely go in favor of your friend. And then when you and your friend are having issues, you know, your friend did something you didn't like, and you're in a position of authority. Thank God man is not God.
But me, I'm a nice person. I'm not petty. So if I was putting for real,
the temptation to be pettiness,
I'm never petty. That's the thing.
Tell me, let's have this. We'll have this conversation when, you know, power is in your hands. The power to do and undo. All right. I
honestly am very far from petty. I think that being petty is an inborn thing. If you want to show wickedness to your friend, because say you be wicked person, true. Don't be saying anything.
I mean, I don't think anyone is above being petty. You know, just, you know, they say power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, when you have the power to be petty,
or you
can afford to be petty, let's have this conversation. Right?
Another thing I want is all that money that they say doesn't change a person. I want to feel it.
Let's give you the money first and see if you change. You know, those are kind of tests you like. All right, so decision making. So it helps you. Emotional intelligence would encourage you to be thoughtful. And remain rooted in your values whenever you're making a decision. So like you said, you're not petty. That's a value you have. So even when you're making decisions, irrespective of how you feel at that time. They say don't make decisions when you're happy, when you're angry, when you're sad. Just those are not the times. Anytime you're emotional, it's not the time to make a decision. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
Now, since we're talking about the office environment, and obviously in offices there are different organizational cultures, how do you think this influences the friendship dynamics between colleagues?
So I'll give a very practical example. The day I had an office buddy, we used to do everything together. Like, we used to literally many times eat from the same plates, and then my friend got promoted, and we had to adapt and adjust to the dynamics. Imagine me having to take instructions from my friend. This is somebody who we could slap each other upside the head. It was the rules of the games had to change. Okay,
Right.
So culture would play a big role because it could either promote or discourage psychological safety. So healthy cultures will allow employees, let's say, form authentic connections without fear of judgment or retaliation. All right. But if the culture is toxic, right, it will suppress, people will not feel safe enough to
Right.
form bonds. It's like asking prisoners how well will prisoners bond to make form true friendships. Okay. And I'll just say this, look, cultures that celebrate diversity and inclusion would encourage cross-functional and cross-level friendships. Okay, so they don't have this exclusive or hierarchical culture that would limit any form of relationship building. Maybe only managers can only bond at a level. Junior staff should only bond at a level. Those are ways in which your organizational culture could limit true friendships being established.
Do you think that the HR department of an organization or the leaders should support healthy workplace friendships? And also, what can they do to support healthy workplace relationships?
I don't know why, HR, we are just everybody's emotional punching bag. Everybody, everything. What can HR do? Many times I think people can't pick on leadership. So who do we pick on? We can't shoot this gun at leadership. Well, let's pick on HR. So yes, HR does have some responsibilities though, right? We foster psychological safety. That means HR can help to create an environment where employees feel safe to express themselves without fear of retaliation. So in doing this, we create an atmosphere where there's open dialogue, people can give feedback and participate inclusively. All right. HR can definitely provide training on relationship management. We offer workshops, training, be that virtual or physical, to equip employees with the tools to navigate interpersonal dynamics professionally.
Right.
Finally, I'd say HR can establish clear policies and expectations. Okay, so you can make sure there's inclusive policies against any form of discrimination. What is acceptable and what is not acceptable workplace behavior. All these could be contained in separate standalone policies or your handbook, and would serve as a guide to ensure that everybody is consistent in their approach to dealing with one another.
Now today, as a final verdict, which I want to hold against you another time when we talk about office friendships. In conclusion, what would you say about the power of office friendships and how they are formed, especially when boundaries are created?
I was waiting for this.
Yes.
Okay, so this is my position. All right. Office friendships, they are a very powerful force for collaboration, engagement, and they help build resilience when done right. When done right, okay? But if it's not done right, workplace friendships will just create chaos.
Okay, I'm just going to give you this applause because, yes, as soon as you said, when done right, I said,
Yes.
all right. Finally, if we can have evidence to say that I finally convinced the almighty HR that friendships are good in a workplace environment. When done right. So I'll give myself the applause as well.
Okay.
In the meantime, the office Workspace Doctor.
Workplace Doctor,
Workplace Doctor. Thank you so much for your knowledge today. How can people find you?
So you can look me up, Patrick Umor, or your Workplace Doctor, on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, X. Did I miss anything out?
You didn't, because you're not on Twitch yet. Thank you so much.
You're listening to Career Compass with Patrick and Cha Cha on Base 101.1 FM.